This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about and around technological sophistication for intellectual imbecilization. That we have a culture, a shallow culture, is not news for anyone. I mean, everybody understands it, and for many people, it's okay because there are many people that do not want to go in depth. I mean, I believe everybody wants to understand reality, and doesn't want to be deceived, and but they also do not enjoy. They do not have the curiosity, the intellectual curiosity, and they do not train the critical thinking and critical analysis, because everything needs to be trained. If you want to perform better doing something, you need to train it. Whatever it is, you need to train it. And for critical thinking and critical analysis and analysis in depth, we need to train it as well, and to learn how to do it. But this culture that we have of shallowness it has been transformed into a mass culture through technology, through television, through movies. So then we have the development of infotainment, that has been colonizing the world. That the American culture, and I always say it because to me it's true. The big triumph of American imperialism was cultural imperialism, because it doesn't matter where you go, you can see that people have been influenced by it, but they are colonized, culturally speaking and ideologically speaking, even without perceiving it, even without understanding it. Everywhere you go, doesn't matter. Why? Because the movie industry and there was the ability to at the same time demonize communism and glorifying capitalism. This was the great triumph of the Western imperialism, especially after the Second World War, with the omnipotent economy of the United States of America. The consumer society, or the glorification of consumerism, was a very besides being very appealing for people, which is absolutely normal. We want stuff, it's normal. We like innovation, or at least we are trained. We can be trained to be dependent on it, to become dependent on it. That's another point, because human beings can be trained for many things, and that's why it is not easy to define ourselves or to capture what we really are, even for ourselves, to understand ourselves. everybody knows that it's not an easy task because we are kind of a moving target, and we can be many things. The American dream was sold to the public and also worldwide, and it was true that there was great economic development, and people could buy houses. It was easy. It was the age of the industrial capitalism, American supremacy, American economic supremacy. American was a superpower in Ennis. That was the rivalry between the Soviet Union and the United States, but the United States was by far a much more powerful. It was a powerhouse, an economic powerhouse, not only a military powerhouse. And we have to understand that the dollar was already, by default, the international currency. Okay, so that's another. Sometimes we do not emphasize this aspect of imperialism, but that's a very important. To build an empire, to become an hegemonic power, even if you have rivals in terms of military power, if you do not have, if your rivals are not, that's why now China is a problem for the United States, because China is economic rival and a technological and scientific rival to America, and a military rival as well. But China is also challenging the financial order. You can call it the rules-based international order, which is the capitalistic order that controlled by the United States and the satellite states, with the satellite states, with the European Union. The European Union, in spite of have been a satellite, it was very important for the United States to create the European Union, to help the creation of the European Union, because then it would, I mean, you know, Brussels is the capital of NATO, okay? And is where the European Commission, this is not by chance, you know, this is by design. This has a purpose. And that's why the United States of America was able to create this international order that was controlled by them. The global governance that many people talk about, the global governance and blah blah blah, but the global governance was basically dictated by Washington and Wall Street. The way they imposed it, the way they imposed this economic and financial order was, of course, diversified, and they were changing it. They were using all means, all possible means. But the point is that there was no rivalry in economic, the international financial order, and the economic power. It was controlled by the United States. There was political challenges. That's why we had the war in Vietnam and so many coups in Iran, in Guatemala, in many places, in Indonesia, and in many other places, because the United States was actively trying, even in Europe, with the Operation Gladio. Many people do not know about it. It was there is a very interesting book by Daniele Ganser called Operation Gladio, the secret armies, the secret NATO armies, something like that. It's an important book on that subject or topic. So all this was part. The American dream was sold to the Americans and to the world as the possibility that every single person could be an owner. This idea of ownership, the centrality of ownership, that you are a property owner, you own your house. That was at the time in America, since there was the workers, the factory workers, there are good paying jobs, and a man, the wife could stay home, and they could have a nice life. And that's not like that anymore. That's why it is. If people believe that the American dream worked, because it was at the time important to create in the United States, in Western Europe, because there was very powerful socialist and communist movements in Germany, in France, in Italy, and in other places. So they needed to have a counterculture movement and ideological in order, but also to create socio-economic conditions that people would not be interested in politics. The depoliticization of the citizenry has been part of this process of imbecilization by using technology. When the system incentivizes people to become private property owners, houses, real estate, also cars and other items, but especially the stuff that really matters. I would not say that cars and furniture and appliances and whatever, that doesn't matter. Of course, everything matters. But also financial assets. When you become part, when they make us, especially the middle class, people of the middle class and upper middle class, to be part of financial capitalism, not just to be capitalists in the sense that they also have they own houses and other real assets, tangible assets, but they also own that's too much wind. So this culture of ownership is a very important feature of the system, that when you sell it to people, and when you make it the dominant culture, of course you can, and especially it's like how we see in China, especially during the period of this economic boom, this economic uprising. That's when the tide is going up. We the people engage in it because people want, are convinced. They not only want, of course, it's nice, bigger houses, and then people start to compete with each other, neighbors, family members. They want to show this stupid way of showing that you are better, you have achieved this competition to have for success. I mean, there is nothing wrong in success, but there is something wrong with the dominant culture. Okay? And success cannot become, a certain form of success cannot just be glorified and annihilate or obliterate the rest. Since ever that there was an economy of care, a free economy, okay, and an economy of reciprocity, and there is still today the economy of care, especially the economy of care that is so important for the well-being of society, within families, also communities, and it's provided by free, especially slowly but steadily. Competing ideas are just shut down, and then formal democracy, which means a managed democracy, where it is a totalitarian, dominated by a totalitarian ideology. But nobody understands it like that, because you are supposed to understand capitalism as freedom and democracy. But freedom for what? And democracy for whom? So it's freedom to become rich, which is important. That if you imagine that you can become rich, you can have that hypothesis in the horizon. You just have to be innovative, to diligent, and fight and look for opportunities and come up with new ideas. All that is necessary for somebody to succeed in a capitalist environment, in a so-called free market capitalism, or liberalism if you prefer. Of course, some, never many. You can look it in your own community. How many, it doesn't matter. Where does it work better? I mean, why does the American have ideas about Sweden and Norway and Finland, those Scandinavian countries, as socialist? And not socialist countries, they are capitalist countries. But since they have a small population, at least for some reason they could. They have a managed capitalism instead of now they do not have it anymore. That's done, and they do not even realize it. That's the problem. the idea is to have a managed capitalism, not a managed democracy, because the democracy, the essence of democracy, is the collective well-being. That's the essence of democracy. Democracy is not capitalism. And that's why we need to be aware that technology is a tool for the powerful. Doesn't matter what kind of technology, you know. If we are able to manufacture a sword, okay, an iron sword, and you can use it to conquer other peoples, or a firearm that will to fight people that do not have that technology, you can convince your fellow citizen, men and women, eventually, to follow you in conquering. But who is going to win? I mean, the ones that are always able to convince us to fight their fights, they need to tell us that's for our own good. It can be that somehow we benefit with that, but on the long run, we are always losers. And that's why we need a culture that understands that technology is always if technology controlled by capitalism, it can say the same about the new cloud capital, as Varoufakis call it, or the cloud capitalists. That you want it for the benefit of the public, or you just want it to be another form of feudalistic capitalism, which means what is I want to, what is it? It is rentier capitalism. Is another form of rentier capitalism on the top of the financial capitalism that has been so proeminent, especially since the 70s of the last century. Technology is always it's a form of power, so it's part of the power dynamics for the wealthy to control us and control other peoples, and for conquest, and that's how it works according to the capitalist ideology, because the capitalist ideology is not about markets, it's about monopolies, it's about rent seeking, it's about accumulation that needs to be protected by law. That's why we have strong private property, private law and property law. And that's why they need to convince us, and that's why they were very successful. That's why the imperialist culture, the American culture, the imperialistic American culture was very successful, because they were able to convince all the world into the consumerist culture, into making us dependent, more and more dependent on convenience, and being us more and more and deeper and deeper believers in the capitalist paradigm, which means that the capitalist ideology was transformed into even science. You know, if you go and look into psychology, many and the the Darwinistic approach of so many scientific fields, and it is always about to sell capitalism. It's about to sell the ideology of, so capitalism has become by default the ideology that that where other ideologies and fields of knowledge are inspired. So that what we have now is from that's mainly a culture that is basically, even in countries like China, that the culture, the academic world is capitalistic, in the sense that there is the capitalist ideology are the default ideology. So and we just and that's why this the more sophisticated we become technologically speaking, the more imbecilized we are, because the technology is not to free us, in the sense to make us more aware and have a culture of comprehensive understanding of the reality. No, it's not about that. It's just about shallowness. It's about division. It's about imbecilization. Literally. Because if we are not able to understand reality as it is, we are being not only deceived, but we are also being imbecilized. I mean, we are becoming dumb. Because we are not even aware that we should have the will to become critical thinkers. Not in professional terms, but as citizens, as people, as individuals, that have responsibility not only of their own lives and the lives of those that depend on them, but the life of society, the demos, the polis. I mean, we are the demos and we have the polis. Because if we allow the polis, or if we believe that we only have representatives, or we delegate our agency in others, and then we allow them to create a culture that are transforming us into imbeciles. I mean, what's that for? That's just against us, and it doesn't matter. That's the problem, that we do not understand that just because there is the private law and property law, it might look that it exists to defend our rights as ordinary citizens, but it doesn't. It is essentially designed to protect the rights of the wealthy, of the very few in this world that want to control the world. They do not want only to control us, but they want to control the world. That's why financial capitalism has an important role, and now on the top of it we have the cloud capitalism. We have the tech oligarchs on the top of the financial plutocrats and oligarchs. And we are just amazed with technology that we are creating a fake world. Is not artificial intelligence useful for certain? Of course it is. But again, it's going to make us more dependent deeper on convenience. Okay? And what does it mean? It means that the more dependent and addicted to convenience we are, the more imbecile we become. Because it doesn't empower us in the sense that we are creating, we are transforming our world in almost a totally virtual world. But we, as human beings, we need to live in this material world. That's where we live. That's where our lives, that's where we can fulfill our needs or not. As we can have the opportunity to live meaningful lives with purpose or not. That's where we can build our identity based in as less manipulation as possible, so that we have to have an educational system to make us free people, as free as humanly possible, because we are social animals. Therefore we cannot be free in any way, because we always to be relational. Our freedom is always to be relational as anything else, knowledge, anything else. And if we understand this and fight back, I'm not saying that we need to abolish the technology, but we need to democratize them. That is, I'm absolutely sure about that. That we cannot allow, these very few people, and then there is a system which is a system like an iceberg, where you have all these powers, all these the permanent bureaucracy and the forces of the deep state, or that where they forge, where they tailor the deep politics, and we just allow them to. This is, and then we just believe that we can have democracy, and at the same time we are allowing this system to become more and more pervasive, and that they don't even hide anymore. They are fascists. And I'm not talking about right-wingers. I'm talking about liberals. Since long ago that I call them lib-fascists, because that's what they are. They're just a lib facade covering the core, the fascistic core. And what's that for? What's the goal? You ask yourself, what's the goal? What's the goal? What are we witnessing in the world right now? The genocide of Palestinians, so many problems, the fight. There's so many things that we cannot pay attention to everything. What's going on in Africa, in Asia? Every single day, the CIA and other agencies and the cutouts like Ned and others, they are every single day working to create divisions, to fund radical. Everywhere there is a more progressive, okay, let's put it this way, government that doesn't bow. It doesn't have to be progressive, but a government that doesn't bow to the American hegemony, there is for sure foundations, the non-profit industrial complex is working with people, local people, can be Nazis, can be terrorists, Islamic terrorists, can be, it doesn't matter. It's just the worst people they can find, that because they are the ones, like criminals, also the criminal, I mean, also the organized crime, of course, because they are the ones that can do the beating for them and make deals with them secretly, just beneath the surface. That's why it is like an iceberg, these powers. And for what? To destroy, to divide, to destroy any opportunity to democratize the economy. Okay? Any opportunity to democratize the economy, any opportunity to democratize technology. Okay? They will, or politics, by the way, they are there. They do not care how much money they spend, because it's not about just, that's another myth, that they are spending the taxpayer money. It's bullshit. They are not spending taxpayer money. The money they use is backed by nothing. And when money is backed by nothing, money can be created without any, I mean, it's only inflation and other, but they just do it in a way to fund what they want. Only the enterprises, only the initiatives that they know that are going to be to protect and enhance the interests of the wealthy, of the plutocrats and oligarchs. So that's that core. They are just one single entity? Of course not. There are divisions, and there are fights for power and influence, but nevertheless, they work for to have an international order, the so-called rules-based order, international rules-based international order, to protect themselves for the eternity. That's what they want. They would like to have the world controlled by them. Doesn't matter at what cost, for the eternity. And that is why, when you think about your little things, your little possessions, your house, your castle, your house is your castle, okay? And you are so attached to these principles of ownership, and you do not understand that for them, that they do not have the property rights, the private rights, the inheritance rights are crafted and changed and perfected for them, not for you and me. They just want us to be convinced that we are all equals, okay? Me, you, if you are middle class and you have a nice job and blah, blah, blah. So you are the same. You are in the same club as Elon Musk or the CEOs of any major corporation of this world. Macrons, the banksters, especially the banksters. They are really the scam. They are the scourge of the world, honestly. And now these days we don't know anymore because everything is really mixed. We don't know anymore the separation between between the investment banking, and commercial banking. There is nothing anymore. It's just shadow banking. It's just scams, and it's a horrible situation that is and then we just think that, okay, but this is so it's good that should we have a society that we own nothing? And who will be the owner of everything? I don't know if there would be the society would be people who would own nothing or not, because it doesn't matter. Can you use it? Do you have a democracy? That's the point. That's the problem, that people do not discuss the values, the deep values and principles that should be democratically accountable, and they should be responsible to defend them, because are the principles, the economic principles and political principles, and what kind of society and civilization do we want that matters. It's not if we own or not, because I don't want to own the food I need to survive. I just need the food. Do I need to own a house? It's exactly the point. Or do I need to own a second house in the Alpes or in the Côte d'Azur or Riviera? You know what I mean? Or where, elsewhere, just because I can go there 2 weeks during the year. Is that fair? Is that fair for the other people and for the world? And then I just can make a renting. Why doesn't it is for the local people? Why do not the wind farms and all the things that are public utilities that all of us need do not belong to the local communities? We can have a system where private companies do the maintenance and or even build them, but we can't own them. Okay, they can be owned, democratically owned. And it's the same about social housing. I don't know. It's not my. I'm not entitled to say if there should be private property or not. I'm not going to dictate it to anyone, of course. I just would like that people will think. That's the problem. Is not that. The problem is the freedom I have. Do I have my house? That piece of property I call my house. Is it mine? Or can it be taken away so easily? What kind of troubles and worries do I have to have or go through just in order to own that house? Do I need it to be mine? Could we have some other way? Can we at least make experiences? Not just this totalitarian ideology that are sold to us as the epitome of democracy and the freedom. Can we at least discuss it? And I do not mean in academic terms. I mean, it can be done academic research. I'm not against academic research. I learn a lot with academics, at least with some or a few of them. But that's not the point. The point, we need also to democratize knowledge in order to understand that otherwise we are just victims, real victims, not playing victim, okay? We are real victims of every single technological sophistication, since especially television and movies. That was really, and advertisement, of course. So everybody remembers, or at least some of us know, about the idea of torches of freedom by Bernays. It was these ideas that this is one of the idea that you just tell women, half of the population, that smoking is a torch of freedom. Can you see it? Can you see how perverse, how sick this is? That you tell somebody, you become addicted to. We just get to you. You must use an addictive substance in order to become free of I don't have the word right, of patriarchy, of patriarchal dominance. Okay, this is sick, but this works. And since we're imbecile, we are not becoming freer. It is just the opposite, because commodification and shallowness and defotainment just makes us more imbecile, more dumb, more then the stupid ideas, we become prey of stupid ideas that to divide us, to conquer us by division, tribalization, and isolation, atomization. And that's what we have been. And do you believe that now, with the so-called fourth industrial revolution, it's going to be different? I mean, that just proves one thing, that propaganda works, that the imbecilization techniques work. That's what it proves to me. So I'm going to finish here for today. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon. I'm sorry. It has been a little bit. It's a bit windy, but I mean, if you bear with me, I do not pretend to have to be smarter than anyone else. I just try to give some reflection, put some thought in different ideas and try to put them together. There might be a few insights that can trigger you, and that's the point of my monologues. I mean, because I do not have people around me to discuss these topics. People don't care. That's because exactly people do not understand how deep we can be managed. And that's exactly the point of it. It's about management. We, instead of having managed capitalism by the demos, that's why it has been working in the Scandinavian countries. We have the opposite. We have managed demos, and for the purpose of wealth accumulation, social control, and power for the few, which is the wonderful book by Michael Parenti called Democracy for the Few. That's exactly what we have. Manage democracy for the few, to benefit the few. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll be back soon.